Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Welcome to our 194th episode. What a milestone. Happy New Year and happy holidays. It's always a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly makes it all worthwhile. Please make sure to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And also remember that all our episodes are available 24/7 and they stream on Your Home TV and Kathy Ireland worldwide platform. And of course, you can always find us directly on our YouTube channel at Zen Sams. In the Hydration with Heart segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, actress Camille Guaty from HBO's Duster, created by J.J. Abrams. And she also brings magic to the big screen in Harold and the Purple Crayon. Now, beyond her impressive career, Camille's personal story is one of resilience and hope. After a 4-year journey through IVF treatments, she welcomed her son in 2019 through donor conception. She's here to talk about her path to motherhood, her career, and her ongoing mission to bring light to women's health issues. In the Going Deep segment, in the Expert on the Microphone series, we're tackling the truths and myths surrounding menopause and perimenopause. This stage of life has been misunderstood and overlooked for far too long. Joining us are two incredible women leading the charge in their respective fields. Dr. Ashley Winter, she's a board-certified urologist and sexual medicine specialist, and Lana Kerr, founder and CEO of CO2 Lift and Lumisque Skincare. They're pioneers of medical-grade carboxy therapy treatments. Together, they're going to help us demystify menopause, address the stigmas, and empower women to advocate for themselves. In the Polished Beauty segment, today I'm joined by my regular contributor, Dr. Daisy Aim, founder of the Polished Beauty podcast. And today's guest is a woman who truly defines resilience, Jen Drummond. She's a mom of 7, a world record-holding mountaineer, author, speaker, podcaster, and entrepreneur. She's going to dive into her incredible journey, the strength it took to get her there, and how she balances her many roles. Jen set a world record as the first woman to climb the 7-second summits, which are the second highest peaks on each continent. Stay tuned for Jen Drummond and the incredible Dr. Daisy Aim coming up next. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by the Polished Beauty podcast with Dr. Daisy Aim. Hey, ambitious women, ready to shine on the inside and out? Tune in to the Polished Beauty podcast, where we talk about business, beauty, brains, and body all in one spot. Meet Dr. Daisy Aim, triple board certified cosmetic surgeon, pro-aging advocate, fitness enthusiast, and your go-to for real talk on leveling up every part of your life. The Polished Beauty podcast is your dose of ambition meets empowerment. For more information, head to polishedbeautypodcast.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in the Polished Beauty segment, I'm thrilled to be joined by my contributor, Dr. Daisy Aim. She's a triple board certified OBGYN and founder of the Polished Beauty podcast and one of the most inspiring voices in health and beauty. Now, let me introduce today's guest. She's a woman who truly defines resilience, purpose, and strength. Jen Drummond is a mom of 7, a world record-holding mountaineer, an author, a speaker, a podcaster, and an entrepreneur. Let's go back a bit. In 2018, after surviving a near-fatal car accident, she realized that while we don't get to choose when we leave this life, we do get to choose how we live it. That life-changing moment set her on a path of adventure and self-discovery. When her then 8-year-old son dared her to climb Mount Everest, she took on the challenge and didn't stop there. Jen went on to set a world record as the first woman to climb the 7-second summits, the second highest peaks on each continent. Her book, Breakproof, and her podcast, Seek Your Summit, inspire people everywhere to embrace challenges, lead themselves, and push beyond their limits. Today, we're going to dive into her incredible journey, the strength it took to get her there, and how she balances her many roles. Welcome, the extraordinary Jen Drummond. Such an honor to have you with us today. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Hey. Thanks for having me today. Super excited to be here.
Excited is beyond.
Yeah, Jen, I'm so excited to meet you too. Let's chat.
Let's chat.
So, your story is the epitome of turning a life altering event into a source of strength. Surviving a car accident that should have ended your life is unimaginable, yet you found a way to let that moment inspire this bold new direction, if you will. So, how did you channel the trauma of that experience into motivation to live more authentically and adventurously?
Yeah, I think that accident happened for me, not to me. And it allowed me to reflect on my life and realize we're leaving. Like, this is not a game that we get to play forever. This life is ours. And I check up on myself. So if I don't love the person that I'm living as or showing up as or the things I'm doing, that's on me. That's not on anybody else. And so I used to follow the rules and people please and all that kind of stuff. And when that accident happened, it gave me permission to say, I'm sorry, I got to do this on my terms. If I disappoint you, I'll vibe my tribe and you're not part of it.
Wow. I mean, you've embraced challenges, and I love what you just said, but the fact that you've embraced these challenges that most of us would have never dreamed of facing, what mindset shifts did you need to make as a mother of 7 to take on the physical and emotional demands of scaling the 7-second summits? That's no easy feat.
Yeah, it's not easy, but I don't think life's designed to be easy. We get to find out what we're made of and who we are when we start pushing against our edges and challenging ourselves. And when we overcome or make something happen that we tried so hard for, that's what we celebrate. That's what gets us excited. For me, I realized I have 7 kids watching every move I make. And if I don't show them how to live a life that you're passionate about, you're excited about, that you can't wait to wake up to, where are they going to learn that?
Right.
Like, I'm demonstrating them how you do life. And so I realized I needed to do a better job at that.
Well, it's really impressive that you have 7 kids. Let's first clap to that, okay? That's an accomplishment on its own. How would you advise women out there that are trying to do something like this and balance family and life and not feel guilty or hesitant to pursue their dream?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, you have to be honest with yourself and what you're capable of doing. I remember telling my coach, hey, here's my order of priorities: my family, my business, then my athletic pursuits. So on Sundays, I would give him my calendar and be like, okay, figure out how we're going to fit the athletic pieces in here. And he would look at my calendar and he's like, Jen, you're going to be climbing a molehill at this rate because you need more time in here to make this work. And so when we sat down and we examined, I said, okay, you know what? This Zoom call I can do while I'm on a walking treadmill. I just have to have an AI technology plug in there, record the call. I don't need to be on camera and I can still understand what's going on. This soccer game that I'm going to, I'm going to bring a 12-inch step. I'm going to carry a backpack full of water bottles and I'm going to be on the edge of that soccer field doing my step ups so that I get an hour and a half workout while I'm watching my soccer game. So is my training perfect? Absolutely not textbook training, but it worked for me because it allowed me to show up as the person I wanted to be and still do things I was interested in pursuing.
Wow, that's really clever.
So scaling the 7-second summits is a feat that few people in the world, man or woman, have accomplished. It's a physical, mental, and logistical challenge that requires unparalleled perseverance. What was the most challenging summit for you? And how did you push through the moments of doubt or fear while you were on that journey?
Yeah. So having a clear why, because you're going to have doubts and questioning it multiple times. It's not a, hey, I satisfied that answer. Now I'm good. It's like, hey, every single time something goes wrong, I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? So for me, I brought a picture of my children and I kept it in my jacket. So anytime something got hard, I could pull that photo out. I also had them write me notes and I wrote myself a note. So when I had big doubts, I could read that note to myself. I'm like, no, here's why I'm doing this. Here's what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. And for me, I have 7 kids and there was 7 mountains. And so each child picked a mountain that was kind of theirs, that they researched and looked into and they owned. And so I was like, well, I can't disappoint my child. Like, he's like, this is his mountain. I need to climb it. So having that accountability piece really helps.
Wow. I mean, the more you talk, the more impressed I get. How do you recover from your summits? Once you've accomplished it and you're back home, how do you recover?
Yeah. So here's a key thing to all of us pursuing big things. We're away from our families. We feel that guilt and we want to get home immediately. I'm going to encourage you to lean against that and give yourself a day, at least, maybe a couple. So before I went on an expedition, I gave myself 1 or 2 days on the front end to get to that country, get settled, and kind of go into the mindset or the avatar that needed to climb this mountain. When the climb was done, I would give myself a day or two in that country before I came home to my family so that I could integrate all the experience and process it and understand the story that I was going to tell. Because when I get home, life's full on. There's no question. Like, I'm in full duty, mom's back, blah, 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 blah. And it's really hard to be fragmented. So I really needed to make sure that, okay, I'm done with this climbing expedition. Here's what I learned. Now I'm going into mom mode. Let's put on that avatar and show up as best as I can. And having those like wind up and wind down times really makes a difference.
Wow. It takes a village.
It does.
And your village starts your village starts your mindset. I really like the way you've broken down your mindset and approached the entire thing. So resilience is something that we talk about a lot in this podcast. How do you personally define it, and what shaped your journey as a leader?
Yeah. So for me, resilience is being able to stay in your integrity no matter what happens. So things are going to push against us. And are you still able to show up the way you want to think the way that you want to, or is something wearing you down and now you want to play small or you need to play big or whatever, right? So for me, it's always checking in with myself. Is this how I want to be? Is this who I want to show up as? Is this somebody I'm proud of? And those little teeny tiny check-ins. At first, I had to set alarms on my phone. So I would set alarms in the afternoon and that alarm would go off and it'd be a question to myself. Okay, am I showing up as the person I want to be? Yes, I am. Or no, I'm not. What do I need to change so I can be more authentically me and not get lost into the flow of life that autopilot kind of sucks us into? So those are things that I do to stay resilient and just honor my path and stay true to myself.
Nice.
Very, very mindful. I love it. Beyond your physical achievements, you've turned your journey undoubtedly into a platform for inspiring others through your podcast, Seek Your Summit, and your book, Break Proof. So sharing your story has become just as powerful as living it, right? What's the most rewarding part of connecting with audiences around the world? And what do you hope people take away from your story?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. Okay, so what I hope people take away from my story most is being kind to myself makes me stronger. Like, the world's hard. Things come at us from all different directions. There's opinions. There's so much things that we need to do and decipher to make sure it's right for us, that if we're not our biggest cheerleader, no one else is going to be. So you have to start with that mindset of, if I'm kind to myself, supporting myself, helping myself, that's actually making me stronger for everything that I'm trying to pursue in this world. When I wrote the book Break Proof, what I did is I took each mountain and kind of extracted a business personal lesson from it to help you see it in black and white. And one of the biggest things that I take away from the journey still is big mountains take big teams. So if you have this big goal and this big pursuit and this big desire to bring to life, and you're doing it by yourself and you're starting to negotiate with yourself or trying to like, oh, I was being optimistic, I need to dial that back. I'm going to say, no, you don't need to dial that back, sister. You need to sit with yourself and say, who can help me? Because we're here to collaborate and help each other and get to the top of those mountains, metaphorical or physical.
So there are so many things about your story that I am so personally impressed by. And I just have a question for you. What's the one bold thing or bold moment in your life that has brought you where you are today? Just one. I've heard so many, but for you, if you had to say one thing.
So I did K2 was a climb that took me twice. I actually had 3 climbs that took me twice. And on K2, my first attempt, I lost the teammate in an avalanche. And I had the choice to continue to climb or to go back down and take care of my team. And I went down to take care of my team because the reality is the peaks will always be there. Who we show up as people is way more important than anything we'll ever achieve. And having that value system in place before you start any pursuit really helps you stay authentic to yourself and not get caught up in summit fever. So at first, of course, I was sad and I was devastated. And now I have to go back and climb this mountain again. And, you know, all the feelings that show up when things don't work out the way we want them to. Well, fast forward, And I'm going back to K2 the next year. And I'm not excited about it, to be honest with you. Now I know what to expect. And I had a bad memory that I have to face again. And when I go back, I got a phone call about a week before I had to leave for the climb. And it was an individual that I met the year before. And they said, like, hey, I'm training for the mountain. I don't quite have the gear. I don't have a team. Do you have any way that you can help me? I'm like, of course I can help you. Like, perfect. This is great. So when I went back to K2, I became the third American female to summit that mountain. But more importantly, 30 minutes later, the first Pakistani female stood on top of her country's prized peak. The first Muslim female stood on top of this mountain in Pakistan and declared to the world what's possible. And so I think a lot of times we get caught in our failures and feel like they're heavy and this happened to me and woe is me, because we don't know the whole story. We don't know that if we continue, why we failed, because that failure allowed me to be a part of somebody else's story in a way I could have never imagined. So if you're running into an obstacle or a setback or a hardship, go forward, like find a way to continue your pursuit, because I promise you magic will unfold that you can't even comprehend at this moment.
We are officially at the end of our date. Jen, it was so inspirational having you back on and chatting with you. I love that I got to tell your story with Dr. Daisy this time. Truly, you are remarkable.
Yes, kudos to you, mom of 7.
Let's do this.
Jen, your story is one for the ages, a reminder that we can take life's most difficult moments and turn them into opportunities for growth, strength, and adventure. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your resilience, and your incredible journey with us today. Dr. Daisy, as always, it's a privilege having your insights on this segment. And to our listeners, make sure to check out Jen's book, Breakproof, and her podcast, Seek Your Summit, for even more inspiration. You could follow her journey at the Jen Drummond, and you can head directly to her website, jendrummond.com. We'll be right back with more on A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. You can definitely check out the Polished Beauty Podcast at polishedbeautypodcast.com. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by the Polished Beauty Podcast with Dr. Daisy Aim. Hey, ambitious women, ready to shine on the inside and out? Tune in to the Polished Beauty Podcast, where we talk about business, beauty, brains, and body all in one spot. Meet Dr. Daisy Aim, triple board certified cosmetic surgeon, pro-aging advocate, fitness enthusiast, and your go-to for real talk on leveling up every part of your life. The Polished Beauty Podcast is your dose of ambition meets empowerment. For more information, head to polishedbeautypodcast.com.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
In business and in life, there's always an upside. Finding it is often the challenge. Having a mindset that looks for it and embraces problems as opportunities is the key to thriving. Finding the Upside with Maria de Lorenzo Reyes explores the transformative power of optimism, featuring visionary business owners, influential leaders, and inspiring everyday people. Tune in and see how they navigate changing conditions with optimism and innovation. Watch the special series One Tough Chick, highlighting resilient and powerful women, streaming on yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. Welcome back to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. In the Hydration with Heart segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, today we're thrilled to sit down with actress Camille Guaty. She's known for her versatile performances across TV and film, and she's recently starred in HBO's highly anticipated series, Duster, created by J.J. Abrams, where she portrays a fierce truck driver navigating the challenges of single motherhood and fighting for women's equality in the 1970s. She also brings magic to the big screen in Harold and the Purple Crayon. Beyond her impressive career, her personal story is one of resilience and hope. After a 4-year journey through IVF treatments, she welcomed her son in 2019 through donor conception. Camille now advocates passionately for fertility awareness, sharing her own journey to empower others facing similar challenges. Today, she's going to join me to talk about her path to motherhood, her career, and her ongoing mission to bring light to women's health issues. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So excited to dive right into this deep conversation and creative one too, because you embody so much. So let's dive in. So studies show that around 10 to 15% of couples in the United States experience infertility, and this translates into millions of people navigating a complex, emotionally charged path to parenthood. Now, you've been so candid about your 5 rounds of IVF and IUI. It's remarkable and rare to hear such openness. Can you tell us about what inspired you to share your journey with the world and how it shaped your outlook on motherhood?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, I was, a woman who was so dedicated to my career. And I always put family on the back burner, even though I knew the importance of that. But I didn't think I was ever going to have a problem. No gynecologist, nobody ever said, hey, you should be thinking about becoming a mother or freezing your eggs or anything to preserve my fertility. Nobody talked about it. And I always thought, I'm just going to say it. I'm Latin. I'm like, hey, maybe I'm not going to have a problem. Like, we have babies all the time. And when I decided that it was time, I slowly but surely realized that, wow, 1 year of trying did not amount to any pregnancies. And then that brought us to an IVF clinic that said, your insides don't match your outsides. Your insides are that of a 50-year-old. And I was 38 at the time. So 38 is late in the game, I think. But that really took me by surprise. And I was like, because no one had ever said anything by this point. So we did our first IVF, second IVF, third, fourth, fifth, IUI, everything. We had 21 embryos that we ended up transferring all in all. And then we even had a 6th cycle that we canceled because I had nothing to work with. And all of that, when I finally got pregnant through donor conception, I remember People magazine wanted to announce my pregnancy. They had no idea. They were like, oh, they just want to, blah, you're pregnant. And I just sat there and I was like, wow, I know I don't have to tell anybody what I went through, but what a disservice that would be to all the women out there to say that I'm pregnant and not say how it happened,
Wow.
because nobody told me. And also the fact that it would be such a shame on my journey as
That
well.
is so true. You just said it. The shame that you would feel about this proud journey with leaving important information
Yeah,
at bay is doing a huge disservice to women because all they see is this picture perfect cover. So you're an inspiration. Your courage to speak out shines a light on something many still struggle to talk about. Now, when it comes to alternative paths to motherhood, such as egg donation, many women struggle with fears of not feeling connected to their child, if you will. And according to recent studies, this is a very common concern among families who consider this option. You mentioned feeling hesitant about this yourself at first. So, how did you overcome those feelings? And what advice would you offer other mothers to be, that are grappling with similar emotions?
this was a very hard decision for me. I think there's a lot of responsibility that comes with this decision. And that's one. It's looking at all of those responsibilities and really getting your mind around that and knowing that you can handle that.
Right.
Two, you have to grieve. If this is a decision that if you guys are on the precipice of making this decision to use donor conception, you do have to grieve the loss. Like, how many times did I have a vision of what my baby was going to look like? And selfishly, it was a little me. It was like, that was my baby. That's who I thought I was going to have every single time there was a failed pregnancy. So when that doesn't happen after 5 years of trying 21 embryos transferred, then you have to mourn that loss. And then you get to go to a place of gratitude, right? Then you go to this place of, wow, this woman is not why am I jealous of her? She's actually a gift, and I get chills when I say this because I was so afraid of this woman. I thought my husband was going to be into her and not me because she's doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm broken and I'm damaged goods and she's not. She's young and she's vital and it has all of these things that I don't have, and she's giving my husband a baby. This is how I viewed it. Like, I have no part in this. And when I shifted my lens to gratitude and I was like, wow, this woman is giving me the gift of motherhood. This woman is giving me this gift of being able, because my body was able to carry. So she's giving me that ability to be able to do that, to experience carrying my son in my belly and nurturing him for 9 months and giving birth to him. Like, I would never have been able to experience that if I just said, no, I don't want to do this. Now, this isn't for everybody, I understand, but for me, I am so grateful that I made that choice.
Well, you brought such emotions to this conversation. I teared up for a little bit. But thank you for that honesty, Camille. It's so
Or
powerful for people to hear this from someone who's been through it, and as on the receiving end, as a mother.
Hmm.
You are so brave. You are so brave. Now, I'm going to pivot back to some statistics as I go through this one in the next couple of questions, but I want to talk about your son. In 2019, your son, Morrison Raphael, was born, finally bringing your dream to life. So this must have been a whirlwind of emotions. And studies highlight the intense joy parents feel after long fertility journeys, yet there's often a lingering sense of anxiety. So can you describe what that moment was like for you and how your perspective on motherhood has now shifted since his birth?
Well, I have to say, for me, because everyone has a different pregnancy, right? I was one of the happiest pregnant women, even though I did have some issues in my pregnancy as well. But I was just so elated to finally see my belly growing, because every time I walked down the street and I couldn't get pregnant and I saw a pregnant belly, that was like a trigger for me. So to be able to have that myself I was filled with so much joy. So then when giving birth, when I first laid eyes on this little man, I just, it's almost a shock, right? And I know, and I said this, I was speaking to a woman yesterday, and I said this to her. I said, all of the sadness, and I'm not going to say fear, because there's still your fears from using a donor egg still carry, but all of the sadness and all of the hardship and all of those miscarriages, or no pregnancies from the transfers, all of that goes away. She goes, really? I said, 100%. I couldn't even connect to the sadness. I couldn't connect.
Oh, this warms my heart. It warms my heart. You know why? Because he looks like you.
You think so? Oh, good.
Yes, he looks like you. And this is where nurture over nature really comes into play. That's a different interview. But when
Yeah.
we he does. And in recent years, celebrities sharing their infertility journeys have raised incredible awareness about this very topic. And studies show that nearly half of Americans see value in public figures like yourself
Yes.
normalizing infertility discussions. So you've become part of this movement in a beautiful way. How does it feel to know that your story is helping others feel less alone?
Well, I mean, it's pretty amazing. I said this in with the intention of helping others, of raising awareness for fertility for women, and to know that you have power and decision making earlier on, and to now know that I have reached so many people and have helped so many people. But at the same time, I have to say that speaking out has healed me, and talking to people about my story and hearing their story and finding the similarities and just navigating it together has 100% healed me. And it normalizes it as well. I speak also for the future of my son, and to take away the stigma that donor conception had for me, that I know it has for others. So the more I talk about it, the more it normalizes, and it normalizes his future. So
It's beautiful. What you're doing is revolutionary. You're giving a voice to so many women who may have not had one. And we often focus on the journey of the mother, but partners, right, are so integral in this process. So your husband, Sai, is that his name?
mhm.
He stood by your side through it all. And I imagine that that bond only strengthened over the years. So, how did you both work through the challenges as a team? And what advice do you have for couples who may find themselves in these similar situations?
Yeah, great question. I think this journey can feel very isolating, and it can feel like it's just happening to, depends if it's happening to the woman or the man, because it does happen to, it's almost 50-50. We just don't hear about it. But it does feel very isolating, and it feels like there's only one person in the partnership that it's happening to. But I will never forget what my husband said one day when I was on the depths of despair crying. He said, this is not just happening to you, this is happening to us. And he goes, I didn't envision us having a baby this other way, right? I envisioned having a baby this way, and so did you. He's like, so we are transitioning into another process together. And just hearing him say that it wasn't just happening to me, even though that's how I felt, that it was happening to both of us, really brought me closer to him, because I went through all sorts of stuff where I was mad at him for nothing. I was just mad at him because why not? Uh,
Right.
and and also we spoke to a therapist together, and we hashed it out, and I hashed out every single ounce of my fears. Everything was laid out on the table. This is, if I don't connect to this child, then I can leave. If, truthful, horrible things that I thought, but valid for me at the time. I mean, I thought, well, he's going to be your child more than mine, so I'll just walk away if I don't have a connection. And I truly felt that way. And I truly felt so many things, but we worked through it
Yeah.
together.
And I believe therapy is critical and crucial to have that
Percent.
third voice, the voice of reason when everything is blurry or cloudy in your life or in your relationship, right? That therapist could guide you out of that darkness. I'm
Yes.
going to shift to the name Morrison Raphael because I want to be mindful of the time. So, the name Morrison Raphael is so beautiful and meaningful, honoring both your father and Sai's grandfather. Could you share what these names mean to you personally, and how do you hope they shape Morrison's identity?
It's so funny. He asked me yesterday, Mommy, why did you name me Morrison? And I was like, oh, I'm like, do you not know the story? And he's like, I just want to hear it again. I said, okay. So I think originally we wanted Sonny. Sonny was going to be his name. And a lot of my friends still call him Sonny, because when I was pregnant, they were like, little baby Sonny. And we loved his grandfather, who was Papa Mo. Maury was his name. And so one day I just saw there was like a burger shop in LA, and it said Morrison's. And I said, oh, that's like Maury and Sonny kind of together. It's Maury's son, Morrison. I'm like, Morrison. And I brought it to my husband, and I was like, what do you think about Morrison? He goes, I love it. I love it. So that's how Morrison came into play. And then another person that we respect so much is my father. And I wanted to carry a Spanish even though Raphael can be many different ethnicities, but I wanted it to come from the Cuban side. And so that's how Raphael came in, and to honor my dad. So Morrison Raphael.
What a powerful name with so much heart. So fitting for the Hydration with Heart segment. Now, beyond your acting career, you've been committed to philanthropic work, including your involvement with foster care initiatives. Data shows that over 400,000 children are in foster care right here in the US, with a tremendous need for resources and support. How did you become passionate about this cause, and how can others contribute to making a difference with you?
Well, it actually came from my anger of not being able to get pregnant, of battling infertility. And when we got to the point of where I knew that my eggs were not viable anymore, and my husband was really wanting me to do donor conception, I said, no. I said, I want even playing field. If we can't use my eggs, we're not using your sperm. And I was hell bent. So I was like, I'm just going to start researching adoption. And I started going down the rabbit hole of foster to adopt and seeing all of these children that needed homes. I mean, I bawled my eyes out when I started looking. And then I connected with the foster agency in Los Angeles and became really close with one of the women there. And it was Christmas time, and I just started working with her with another friend and helping all of these children. And then through that, we started an organization called Foster a Dream. And I was for sure that this is how we were going to have our first, was going to be through the foster system. And then my heart had softened, and I said, you know what, let's try. But you know what, let's try the donor. But I have 21 of my own embryos transferred, and not one took. We ended up only having one donor egg. That's it. One egg that fertilized and ended up being Morrison. But I remember our large event for the foster system, one of our largest events that we had, and that one embryo took. And here I was pregnant with like thousands of foster kids too. There was it was so beautiful for me to be working with all of these kids and with the foster system in Los Angeles, and to be pregnant and knowing our second one, by the way, is going to come from the foster system. Now that I'm here in Nashville, I'm like, I just got a contact. So
Congratulations, you're adopting.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, I think
Yes.
not this year, maybe it'll happen pretty soon. So
We're manifesting it will happen.
we are manifesting. That's right.
Wow. Well, we are almost at the end here. That's an incredible, full circle story. Your heart is as big as your talent. Thank you for leading by example. So many people today face silent struggles, especially with fertility or the road to parenthood. We have nearly 1/3 of Americans that believe fertility challenges are too rarely discussed, but they impact millions of people. So you are doing an amazing job, my dear. Now, I would be remiss not to mention hydration. Extremely critical, whether you're in IVF treatments or trying to conceive, or a working actress or a working mama. Are you a fan of coconut water, and how has it become part of your routine? I want to know, more importantly, what benefits do you feel it brings to your health and energy as you juggle motherhood and career?
I absolutely love coconut water, and so does my little one. For him especially, because for kids, they always forget to drink, right? So if they're going to take a sip of something once, twice, three times in a day, give them coconut water, because it'll replenish everything for them in 2.2 seconds.
You are resilient and you are full of heart. I thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
To follow Camille's journey and get more inspiration, you can find her on social media at Camille Guaty. And thank you to Once Upon a Coconut for bringing us this heartfelt Hydration with Heart segment. To all our listeners, remember, no matter the journey, you're not alone. Until next time, you're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut.
Discover the refreshing taste of 100% pure coconut water that actually tastes great. Naturally sweet with no artificial flavors or added sugar. It's packed with electrolytes to keep you hydrated throughout your day. And with 10% of profits going to charity, every sip makes a difference. Pure taste, pure goodness. Experience nature's Gatorade. Visit Once Upon a Coconut or naturesgatorade.com.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
Do you have the dream of starting and owning your own business, or know of someone who does? If so, check out Your Home Business program, where they inspire, equip, and encourage those who dream of owning and operating their own business. Check out Your Home Business on yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome to another Going Deep segment in the Expert on the Microphone series. Today, we're tackling the truths and myths surrounding menopause and perimenopause. This stage of life has been misunderstood and overlooked for far too long, leaving many women feeling unsupported and just misinformed. Today, we aim to change that. Joining us are two incredible women who are leading the charge in their respective fields. Dr. Ashley Winter is a board-certified urologist and sexual medicine specialist who is reshaping the conversation around intimacy, pelvic health, and menopause. And returning contributor Lana Kerr, founder and CEO of CO2 Lift and Lumisque Skincare, which are pioneers of medical-grade Carboxy therapy treatments designed to rejuvenate and empower women from head to literal toe. Together, they're going to help us demystify menopause, address the stigma, and empower women to advocate for themselves. Getting started now on breaking the silence, demystifying menopause, and reclaiming our health and confidence. Welcome to the show, superstars.
Yeah, hi.
So nice to have you on. Ashley, it's an honor. I've been following your page on Instagram from one mama to another. Boy, do you ever juggle it all. Keep it real, keep it fresh, and really keep it entertaining. Let's dive right in, because this is something that has been irking us women way too long. What's the biggest myth or stigma you encounter about menopause and sexual health, and how do you address it with your patients?
That menopause is just hot flashes and night sweats, right? It is every single part of your body. It is our bone strength, it is our cognition, it is our energy levels, it is our weight, it is urinary tract infections, which is something I specialize in as a urologist. It's our intimacy, it's our ability to get lubricated, it's our sexual desire, it is the quality of our skin. It is so many things, and it affects every aspect of our body. And it's not just about while you are experiencing those hot flashes and night sweats and mitigating it. It is about saying, what do I want the entire second half of my life to look like? And what am I going to do to be the most vital person I possibly can? So I think that is the biggest myth, that it's just a few symptoms, and it's not. It's really every aspect of our bodies.
Wow, what is it not at that point? Well, that was the question I should have led off with. And it's so interesting. You touched on something important. Misinformation and women thinking that it's just about hot flashes and night sweats, but it goes further. Over 50% of postmenopausal women that are experiencing the genitourinary symptoms, yet fewer than like 25% seek treatment due to embarrassment or lack of knowledge. So I'm going to ask you one further question, Dr. Ashley. You've been a vocal advocate for vaginal estrogen to support urinary and sexual health. Can you explain why this treatment is often overlooked and how it can really drastically improve quality of life for menopausal women?
Yes, I love this question. It is my favorite topic to discuss in the entire world. So the vagina and the bladder and the urethra and the vulva, so our labia and our clitoris, all of that is exquisitely sensitive to hormones, both estrogen and actually testosterone. And using ultra low dose vaginal preparations of these hormones allows your body to avoid things like urinary tract infections, overactive bladder, bladder inflammation, bladder pain, incontinence. It also is critical for maintaining your ability to lubricate when you're interested in sex. It makes your tissue plump, stretchy, responsive. It allows us to avoid pain with sex. So it is an incredible treatment, and it is exquisitely safe. We know with study after study on really at this point tens of thousands of women that low doses of vaginal hormones do not increase risk of breast cancer, blood clots, and anything. Like, it is so safe and so effective. And in terms of why it's underutilized, there are a number of reasons. I can tell you one of the biggest issues is that in the United States, there is an FDA issued black box warning on all of these products saying that they can increase risk of endometrial cancer, breast cancer, dementia, blood clots, when the data is abundantly clear that it does not, right? So how are women and their healthcare providers going to get past a non-evidence-based labeling that is put there by our own government entity, right? And because of that, it becomes extremely underutilized, and women suffer as a consequence.
It's eye-opening to learn that such an effective treatment is underutilized. So thank you for clarifying this. And now studies show, and I'm going to pivot to Lana, that 60% of women experience skin changes during menopause, such as dryness, thinning, or loss of elasticity, but many don't know how to address these issues. So Lana, CO2 Lift has been recognized for its carboxy therapy treatments. How do these products help address skin changes, including the skin down there, that occur during menopause, and what kind of results can women really expect?
We think of this analogy of this grape and a raisin, which I like to point out. We're born this beautiful grape, plump looking, and then we eventually turn into this raisin. So fortunately, we have the technology that slows it down, but it's the same thing that is happening downstairs. So blood flow, which is very important for our clitoris because that requires blood flow to operate optimally, it starts to slow down, so that can start to shrink. The skin, our vaginal tissue, the skin is similar to what's under our eyes. It's very thin, so eventually stops to lubricate and eventually leads to painful sex. So very much like on the face, there's a difference in terms of our formulation for the V, in terms of the pH. By using it down there, women are going to experience greater pleasure, as from our clinical studies, double blind, have shown increased because we address clitoral atrophy. It's going to plump that area. It's going to make that operate more effectively. It's going to thicken the tissue in our vaginal tissue so it feels like it's tighter. It feels nicer. It's healthier tissue, so women are experiencing less incontinence, less urinary tract infections, because again, it balances the pH. So it has been very effective. And I'm a big advocate of hormones. I've been taking that since I was in my mid-40s. And still, I recognize there was still a decrease in my sensitivity, which is why we created the CO2 Lift. But for women who are not necessarily open to taking hormones for whatever reason, this is also a great option because it's going to help in a very similar way to what vaginal estrogen, of course, is not as inexpensive, is doing, but even more so in other areas because it includes blood flow. It is a biostimulator and a bioregenerator. So it's putting your body in a position to regenerate the tissue so it can function as it did when we were more youthful.
It's exciting to hear about such innovative solutions for something so many women face. So thank you, Lana. And I love that you're at the forefront of these technologies, and clinical verification and clinical research, I know, are of the utmost importance to you and your team. Now, research shows that 40% of women experience low libido during menopause, but few discuss it with their doctors due to stigma. So Dr. Ashley, how do you approach conversations about low libido with your patients, and what treatments or strategies do you recommend to help them regain intimacy and connection in their relationships?
We know that there are profound physical factors that can really affect our libido. So number one, low testosterone. Testosterone is the most prevalent hormone in all human bodies, including women, and it decreases over time. And a profound number of women in perimenopause and menopause have low testosterone level. And of course, that impacts libido, right? So that is something that's incredibly critical to check and treat. There is extensive data supporting that. There's a Cochrane review, so that's the most robust type of meta-analysis demonstrating that basically there's strong recommendation to treat women in menopause with low sexual desire with testosterone. Okay, it is not fringe. This is well-regarded data. And then there's also actually two different medications that are FDA approved for low sexual desire. One is called flibanserin and the other is called bremelanotide. They both work on the neurochemicals in the brain because you can have a balance that goes towards inhibitory signals in the brain, like sex inhibitory signals and not the pro-sex signals. So when I have a patient coming into my office with low sexual desire and they say, hey, I want to be horny, I want to be initiating, I want to be excited about sex, I don't want to just be responding to the feeling that my partner needs sex, right? How do we get there? So we're going to address the psychosocial component. We're going to refer them to therapy if they need it. We're going to check their testosterone levels and prescribe that if they need it. And then we're going to discuss the FDA-approved medications for low sexual desire. There are tools to get you horny and initiating and excited about sex, and you deserve to feel that way.
I love it. I love this. Is great. So a woman will spend about 1/3 of her life in menopause. You alluded to this earlier, but so many of us lack the knowledge or resources to navigate this stage confidently. And I say that confidently because that's the optimal word. So Lana, you've spoken about how your CO2 lift vaginal treatment is really designed to address vaginal health issues. I know that your product supports women during menopause, but why do you feel it's important for women to feel comfortable in seeking these kind of solutions?
I think, well, first of all, because we're so cerebral, women, Dr. Ashley referred to this, there's a component, our brain is actually, I feel for women one of our biggest sexual organs, right? So I think women need to understand the benefits of sex to them. Like, what is the benefit of a good sexual relationship with their partner? That's one. So they have to understand that. And then they have to, then they have to recognize that just because they're getting older, or just like they seek help for their skin, they need to look at what is happening down there. And there is a solution to the issues of aging down there, whether it be in our drive and so on.
It's really inspiring to hear about treatments like yours that not only improve health, but also boost confidence. And I love that you took matters into your own hands and used yourself to set precedents of what women truly want and feel by virtue of knowing what your body was going through. And then you applied that logic to your formula, and boom, you have such a proprietary product. I've used both your products, and I can attest to both of them, both on the vaginal level and on the skincare level. Incredible. Now, chronic pelvic pain affects up to 25% of women, but many are unaware of the link between pelvic floor dysfunction and menopause. Interesting, right? So, Dr. Ashley, again, this is your field of expertise. You work closely with pelvic physical therapists. How does collaboration with these specialists benefit women experiencing that chronic pelvic pain or sexual dysfunction during menopause?
The muscles of your pelvic floor are critical for so many things. So if they spasm, it leads to pain with sex. If you can't tension them correctly, it can lead to reduced orgasm strength, right? Clenching those pelvic floor muscles helps you improve your orgasm quality. If they are spasming, you might have to feel like you have to pee all the time. You're not going to want to have sex if you feel like you're going to lose urine, right, during sexual activity. It can lead to pain after sex, after you orgasm, in both men and women. So these muscles, like the vagina, bladder, urethra, clitoris, and vulva, these muscles are also very sensitive to hormones. So you can have direct changes to the muscle function when your testosterone level goes down in both men and women, and when your estrogen level goes down. But on top of that, if your tissue, right, is affected from menopause. If you are dry, if you cannot lubricate, if the vaginal lining does not stretch the way it's supposed to, then you develop a response to that negative sexual experience where you tense your muscles, right? So it's all connected. It can be the initiator or the outcome of sexual dysfunction. In terms of how I approach this, I examine the pelvic floor on any patient of mine who I think it's appropriate. I refer to pelvic floor physical therapy all the time. And then there are often interventions that we do, such as injecting things like Botox into the pelvic floor, that can be really helpful for people who are experiencing muscle spasm or pain with sex. And oftentimes I'll do that in consultation with a pelvic floor physical therapist who says, I noticed on exam there's a point of tension in this specific area, we're going to target it, right? Just the same way somebody with headaches can benefit from Botox inserted in muscles around their forehead, we can help people with sexual pain who have tension in certain muscles in their pelvis.
Boy, you got a lot of stuff in that toolbox of yours. So Lana, in the line of work that you do, how do you help debunk the stigma surrounding about our skin down there? And what's the most common misconception about it, specifically during menopause?
So just by, I think, conversations, just open conversations with no kind of laughing about it, not making fun of it. At first, when we started, before there are people like Ashley, which I love talking about this subject. When I was in my 40s, I didn't really see anyone having that conversation. When we started it, we put a lot of humor to it because women were very uncomfortable. Now I've changed that. We're just talking straight, just like we would talk about skincare on our face. We talk about aging on our knees. It's almost like we jumped past our middle section, went to the knees, and forgot about our vulva and vagina. So the conversations, I think, talking about the fact that this is just a normal part of aging that now we have a solution for is going to help women to feel open about having those conversations. That's one of the biggest things I think that we do as a company. Also using my own example. I tend to lead by example. In fact, even we talked about, Ash was talking about muscles. I did the vaginoplasty, not that I needed it right now, but just because I wanted to know what women experience when they're going for, what would be the benefit of doing that for myself. Using myself an example, being very honest and candid about my own experience has helped open up the conversations for many other women.
Practical and actionable advice that anyone can use. Thank you, Lana. So back to Dr. Winter. So urinary tract infections become increasingly common during menopause due to those hormonal changes, but the connection is just not always clear to patients. So Dr. Winter, can you explain how menopause increases the risk of UTIs and what proactive steps can we take to really maintain urinary tract health as we age?
Yes. The urethra is much shorter in women than in men. And because of that, women are more susceptible to urinary infections, right? We know that urinary tract infections are up to 30 times more common in women than in men. And it is actually the most common bacterial infection in existence, right? That is a huge statistic. Yes. And in the United States, hundreds of thousands of people are hospitalized every year with urinary tract infections, right? So it's not like the sexy topic in the news that everyone's talking about, but it is a massive impact on our health and our quality of life. Now, because the female urethra is short, we need the vulva and the vagina to be healthy. And when they are healthy, the pH in the vagina is low, and this bacteria, your microbiome called the lactobacillus, act as a defense. They live in your vagina, they live around the urethra, and they act as the barrier to bad bacteria getting up through your urethra into the bladder and causing a UTI, okay? So it is very important to support the microbiome of the vagina to prevent urinary tract infections. When estrogen levels go down, the vagina stops making the food for that healthy bacteria called lactobacillus. It stops making it, and the vaginal pH goes up. So your defenses essentially go away. When you use a low-dose vaginal hormone, vaginal estrogen, for example, which we know from our prior conversation is so safe, you allow that microbiome to thrive. So I tell people Vaginal hormones are essentially the prebiotic of the vagina, and that prebiotic is the most important thing you can do when you're going through perimenopause and menopause to prevent urinary tract infections, really by addressing the root cause and doing something that's natural, right? What is not natural is being on endless courses of antibiotics that can cause you to get yeast infections. It becomes this horrible cycle, right? So you have something, vaginal hormones, that allows you to stay moist, lubricated, comfortable, aroused in response to sexual activity, and also prevents you from having UTIs.
Such practical advice for women who just feel stuck in a cycle of discomfort. I love the way you just phrased and really just framed everything, because menopause is really, it's often referred to as a silent revolution, right? So I like that we're addressing and putting forth the proper information so women can empower themselves. Now, Lana, this is my last question. So I'm going to go back to the silent revolution. It's really referred to this across the board, but the workplace stigma surrounding it leads to a lack of support for women during this phase. So as someone who empowers women through your work, what advice can you give to women facing menopause in the workplace? How can they advocate for themselves navigating this transition and still really just not be ashamed?
That's such a big question. And I think it has multiple answers to that. For me, what I think about is starts with your own belief system on menopause. I think when women look at menopause as like that caterpillar or that going into a butterfly, I look at menopause and I'm in menopause. I've finished my period. I feel like I'm at the top of my game. I think that's where it starts. I think when women feel that way about themselves, not look at themselves as a victim, not look, oh, we're in this part of our life. This is a great time to be alive. It's a great part of our life. We've had our children. We've developed our business. We've had all of this experience. And now we know that there's technology that can help to keep us functioning youthfully. I think it starts with our own perception of who we are. Because once we present ourselves in that, we're not going to see or really take on the negativity that people, men or even other women may have for this area of our lives. To me, that is where it should start. And it's in order to have that, it starts with information, education, going on to subscribing to information like what Dr. Winter is talking about helps to make you feel empowered. So you don't feel in any way deficient at this part of our life. And then you function and you function even better than younger women. Ashley, I know you're in your 40s right now, but I mean, I feel, in other words, it starts with who you feel you are. And I think that's where we need to begin.
That's a great empowering answer and great advice that can help women take control of their narrative. Thank you, Lana. Any closing thoughts, Dr. Winter?
I'm just so happy to be here, and I'm so glad we're having these conversations. I think 20 years ago, this would not have been on talk radio. Like literally your station, I grew up with my grandmother listening to your station. I grew up in New Jersey. So, and this conversation never happened. So
you are 100% right.
Yeah, I'm glad we're doing it. It's going to help so many women. It's also going to help so many people who know women who are going through this, right? Just have the conversations.
Well, thank you both. We are at the end of our date, my friends. I thank you both for coming on. It was such an incredible and really inspiring and transparent conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, for more information, you can follow Dr. Winter on the gram at Ashley G. Winter and explore Lana Kerr's products at co2lift.com. Remember, the journey through menopause is not something you have to face alone. Knowledge and self-advocacy are your greatest tools. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. That was our Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home Carboxy therapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase in luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance.
For more information or to order CO2 Lift, ask your skincare professional or go to co2lift.com.
Well, that's a wrap, my dear friends. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Or you could head to 710WOR.iHeart.com/a moment of Zen. Also, remember that we're live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern, YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern, and all episodes of A Moment of Zen are available on Your Home TV and Kathy Ireland worldwide. You could head directly to our channel at mox.yourhometv.com. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. And remember that happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it. We'll be back next week.